Welcome to the tnAchieves Virtual Community Service webinar. These webinars are designed to provide you, Tennessee Promise students, with an opportunity to learn more about college success tips, careers in your potential field of study, and other topics we think you will find interesting while you are navigating your educational journey. These webinars will also help you complete your community service requirement while it may be difficult for you to do so at this time. A few housekeeping details before we get started. By logging in as a tnAchieves student, we are able to track your attendance and how long you remain actively engaged during the webinar. Once you complete the webinar, you will automatically be given credit for 1 hour of community service. We will track how long you watch, and if you do not watch the webinar in its entirety, you will not receive credit. You do not need to complete the community service form for these webinars. tnAchieves will log your hours for you. tnAchieves staff and partners across the state are providing important insight and information we think you will find entertaining and informative. We hope you enjoy this new series of webinars. Welcome to the tnAchieves Virtual Community Service webinar series. Today we are talking with 3 college professors from across the state. We have Carolyn Fellhoelter with us from Pellissippi State Community College, Doug Cruz from Belmont University, and Kasaundra Nash-McKinney from Southwest Tennessee Community College. Thank you guys all for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what we want to talk about today is the fun creative title that we've come up with here today is College Professors Aren't Scary, but we know that you as a professor are a terrific resource for your students, both in the classroom and as they're thinking about beginning their careers and all the different things that you can do to help students while they are in college, again, in and out of the classroom. So what we want to talk to you guys about today and get your advice and your tips for students as they are not only beginning their college journeys, but as they're thinking ahead about maybe continuing their education or joining the workforce. So why don't we just start out? We'll have you guys tell a little bit about yourselves. If you don't mind to share with us maybe where you're from, the college or colleges where you have earned degrees, what degrees you have earned, and then what you do now, a little brief summary of your career, if you've done things besides be a college professor, and then just kind of a fun, maybe like, what do you like to do in your free time? Carolyn, maybe we'll go east to west. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Sounds great. I am from Knoxville, Tennessee. I teach at Pellissippi State. I am a math professor there, and I have been there since about 2010. I went to Carson-Newman University and got my undergrad in math, and then I actually went out into the workforce for a while. I did accounting for several years and then went back and got my master's degree from the University of Tennessee in mathematics. And I did that because I wanted to go back and teach college math. So I've been doing that since 2010, been full-time for the last 7 years, I guess. I mostly teach statistics, but I do teach a little bit of college algebra. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Great,
thanks so much. Doug?
Hi, I'm Doug Cruz. I teach social work at Belmont University, and I'm an assistant professor there. And how I got to do that is I'm originally from Florida, but live in Nashville now. I got an undergrad from Belmont University, where I teach, and in religion, and then I went to Vanderbilt University and got a master's of divinity, and then worked in the United Methodist Church for many years, and then really felt like it was time to kind of change direction. So I thought, I want to be a therapist. So I moved back home to Florida. I went to the University of Central Florida and got a degree, a master's of social work, and then worked at a university counseling center for a while. And then moved to Utah and got my PhD in social work. And that is how I started my career as a college professor. And I've been doing it since 2012.
4 college degrees from 4 different institutions. Yes. There. All right. And Kasaundra, what about you?
Well, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and Southwest is in Memphis. I started off with getting my degree from Lane College in mathematics and computer science. From there, I went back to school to State Tech and got a degree in computer engineering technology. Then I've worked kind of in numerous jobs. I have worked in an insurance company. I have repaired light ballasts as well as tested them. I repair pages. That tells you kind of how old I am. So from there, I went into teaching. I started off teaching in the high school sector as well as middle school. From there, I moved on to Southwest in 2012, where I teach math. And I also have an associate's degree in accounting as well. So I thought about going into accounting, but then I kept thinking about that's not really my calling. My calling is to teach. So I've been in Southwest since 2012, and I teach math.
Great. Well, thank you guys all so much for that introduction. So all three of you have experience outside of the classroom, outside of being a college professor. It sounds like you've each tried some different things. Doug, maybe we'll start with you this time. Why did you decide to become a college professor?
Well, I actually never had the intention of becoming a college professor. All of my education, I thought I would, when I started my master's of social work, I thought I'm going to be a therapist. I'm going to do that full time. That was all I wanted to do. But then as I went through my program and I had professors who believed in me, I had a professor that said one day, I think you'd be really good at teaching this. Maybe consider it. And so it was based on the encouragement of a professor, my research professor, actually. And she said, think about this. And I kind of giggled and laughed and said, sure, I will. And then as I started doing therapy and as I started understanding research and understanding kind of what it's like to help people, it just stuck in the back of my mind. And so I applied to get my PhD and it worked. And I started teaching, and it's something I never knew how much I would love it until I started doing it. And so I have found a space that I really love. And so it really came about by a professor believing in me and encouraging me. So
we're going to come back to that relationship with your professor that led to where you are today. We're going to come back and touch on that for sure. But Kasaundra, it sounds like you bounced around and did several things. What brought you to the classroom?
I think in initial thought, when I think back, I used to be an in-class tutor. So starting in third grade, I would always walk around. That's one of the things that my teachers allowed me to do because I would get bored easily. And so I was able to go around in class and help my classmates. So it started back in third grade. Even though I tried to stray away from it when I was in college, I did take classes when I was getting my first undergrad degree in math and computer science for education. But I was like, no, that's just a fallback. And it eventually ended up being my career. So it was just something that was kind of innate in me. God gave me that gift to be able to sit down and talk with people about the subject matter of math, and for a matter of fact, because that was always my strongest point. So it was just something that was given to me.
That's great. Sounds like you always kind of had that calling in there somewhere. Carolyn, what about you?
Yeah, when I graduated from Carson Newman years ago, I did want to go into math education, but not long after I graduated, I got married and I started a family. And so I didn't start teaching right away. And then we started our family, we started a business. And so I had to get into accounting, which is not what I ever really thought I would do, but I started keeping our own books and started doing accounting for several years. And then kind of as a fallback, I thought, I always wanted to teach. I may just try teaching a little bit part-time. And so Pellissippi was hiring part-time adjunct instructors. And so I started just kind of doing it part-time, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I had some encouragement there from other professors that said, yeah, you should, look into doing this. You'll need to go back and get your master's degree. But I think you should pursue it. I think it's something you would enjoy. And so I was really actually terrified to go back to school. I was in my 40s. I hadn't been in a classroom in a really, really long time. But I decided to do it. And so I did kind of have that experience of being on the other side of teaching. I was a student going back, and I had all those things where I was a little bit scared of my professor, to be honest with you, even as an adult. But I hung with it, even though it was hard and scary at first, but I had a lot of encouragement. I got to know my professors, and they were super helpful. And I did it, and I got my degree and was offered a full-time tenure track position about 4 years ago, and I absolutely love what I do.
Yeah, that's really great. And as someone who was probably the most scared by math professors, it's good to have two math professors on here today that I know that aren't real scary. So glad that the math professors can come on here today and help us dispel some of these rumors that we might be hearing. Kasaundra, why don't we start with you this time? What's your favorite part about working with students?
Well, because of the population that we have in our student body, most of our students are students who didn't do so well in school. And so when you have that opportunity to open their eyes up to something new and they grasp it, it just kind of takes over of whatever you thought you were going to do in class in the first place. It's the feeling of getting them to understand something that it was presented to them previously, because I typically work with students in their developmental courses for math, whether it's statistics or the algebras. So it's just really great when they've seen it, but they didn't understand it, and now their eyes are open to what's new and what's coming.
Yeah, I think that's a really exciting. Carolyn, what about you?
Yeah, I can relate a lot to what Kasaundra said. I kind of have the same thing. What my favorite thing about working with students is I love it when they come in and say, I'm not good at math. I'm having a really hard time. I'm making mistakes. I'm getting things wrong. I love to hear that. I love to meet a student right there when they're really struggling and help them work through some of these fears. So it's really just working with, I mean, it's actually with all students. I love working with all students, but it's especially rewarding when you have that student that just feels like math is hard. I've never been good at math. I just don't think I'm going to do well in this class. And then you see on the other end that they're successful, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, I think math is one of those you can kind of see it click when it happens, right? It's like a very concrete, you can see maybe you struggle and you get a final answer out of it all. That's probably really exciting. Doug, what about you?
My favorite thing is I teach a lot of courses that are discussion based and kind of theory based, and like how we understand the structures of society. And so I really love it when students come in with and all students do this, they come in with a preconceived kind of notion of what social work is, of what it means to live and work and be with other people. And to see those light bulbs go off when they understand, like, here is how I'm situated in the world, here how other people are situated in the world, and it's different, and we need to make connections, and how they start doing that, not only in the classroom, but then they start doing it in kind of the public sphere. And then as those little light bulbs go off, it's just super fun. It's fun to hear them, and I use this word in the best way possible, to struggle with the challenges of kind of owning their own brains. And I think that's just a fun experience. And then also college students are just fun. Like the age group, kind of what they talk about, I enjoy just hearing about their lives and what they do.
I think one of the best pieces of advice that I got in college was to really get to know your professors. That if you want to continue your education, one day you're going to need recommendation letters. They know people in the fields that you are going to be trying to get a job. And it was something that for the first couple of years of college, I think I probably ignored that advice. And I realized maybe in my last couple of years just how important that was. But I guess, Carolyn, we'll go back and start with you this time. Why do you think that is important, that students get to know you? And what are the benefits of students taking time to get to know the professors that they're in the classroom with every day?
Well, I would just agree with a lot of what you said. It's a relationship that can be very beneficial, to them and their career and what they do beyond your classroom. I still have students to this day that started with me years and years ago that we still talk and may come to me for advice or whatever. So it's a relationship that goes on for years, not just for that one particular classroom. And also mainly just professors love, I don't know any professor that doesn't love sitting down and getting to know a student and know what's going on in their life, what they're struggling with, just, what they're happy about, the good things too. So it's just, I think that's huge. I absolutely think that is one of the most important things you can do is to get to know your professor. We want to talk.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be in this if you didn't have a heart for students, right?
Right.
Doug, it sounds like you have a very concrete example of the benefits of maybe getting to know one of your professors, but maybe elaborate on that same topic.
One of the things that I tell my students as I say, hey, please come to my office hours. Please show up and say hello. If my door is open, you're welcome. I say all those kinds of things because I also understand that their lives and my life is more than academics. Like, yes, I'm here to be your academic professor. We have a task to do. I will help you with that. But also there's so much more that makes you who you are. And I want to know that. And when I understand someone in context, I can help them better. And that is just a gift that conversation and that relationship can give. And one of the things that, in doing that is one of the classes that I teach. It's for freshmen. And one of the requirements is you must make an appointment with a professor, go meet with them and talk about something. So we encourage that at Belmont to really, this is something that is important. This relationship is important, and to kind of get past the fear of stepping into a professor's office is a really key thing.
Yeah, I think that first time can be really hard, but I mean, it's going to be like that for the rest of your career, right? You're going to be going into your boss's office or into your boss's office. So it's a good skill set to have now. Kasaundra, what about you? What do you think are the benefits? Why should students get to reach out and know their professors?
They both, Doug and Carolyn, have both hit on the key things. It's about forming a relationship where they feel comfortable enough to come back and say, hey, this is why I'm not getting this accomplished. There's so much that goes on in our students' lives right now. A lot of our students have children. They have parents that they're taking care of or grandparents that they're taking care of, working multiple jobs as well as trying to go to school full time. And so when you have a more in-depth relationship with your students, you know what to do for them as well as how to teach them, because some of our students, many of our students learn so many different ways that if you don't understand how they learn, you're not able to teach them effectively. And so I spent a lot of time trying to figure them out. And if they're figuring me out as well, and I'm figuring them out, somewhere along the way, we'll combine and we'll meet that happy place where we're learning effectively in the classroom. So it's just really important to figure out how you can keep them moving successfully, because if not, the failure rate is so quick to happen with our students, because they'll get lost and say, hey, well, I'm just a number in the classroom and I really don't matter to the professor. And so if they know that I care and I'm letting them know that I care, they're more frequent to reach out to me and ask for help with any professor at that fact. If they know that you care about them, they'll reach out to you and ask for more help, so everything is more successful.
Yeah, I think it's really important, especially for students. You've all mentioned a little bit now in your previous answers about students that may be struggling a little bit. And if you know them, you're probably able to recognize those things. And if you know them, it's probably easier for them to come and ask for help. So Doug, I'll start with you on this one. What are some resources that are available for students, both academic and non-academic? I know that as a social work and a practicing social worker, that you do some therapy and things like that. So what are some resources available for students both in and out of the classroom, academically and non-academic, that exist for students on your campus?
At Belmont, we have a number of different kind of spaces where students can get help. And as well, we have a space where professors and teachers can get help. Like we have a teaching center for professors that help us understand the lives of students and how we can best engage them in the classroom and outside of the classroom to be kind of holistic teachers for them. But for students, some of the things that we offer tutoring. So there is a office that does straight tutoring for especially the maths and the sciences. And then we have a writing center that helps students learn how to write and connect those dots together better with a peer tutor. Also, as you mentioned, as a social worker, part of what I do at Belmont as well, in addition to my duties as a teacher, I do therapy, and Belmont offers a counseling center that is free to all students. So students can walk in, get the therapy that they need. If they need a referral for off campus, they can do that, but also it's the space is there. And that is both for academic and non-academic reasons. Like students go to therapy for kind of that life transition. College age, that 18 to 25 is a time of transition, and it can be difficult on some people. For some of our students, it's their first time away from home. And that impacts their not only ability to kind of navigate socially, but academically. And so there are those services put in place. And also we have our Dean of Students office, and they provide a multitude of services from if the student has to go to the hospital, what can they do? If they need to take a leave of absence, if they need to connect to different helps, our student services provides lots of different ways to help students. And again, the key for all of that, though, is communicating your need.
Yeah, it's really important, I think, for students to reach out and ask for help. And that we've recorded some other webinars, and one of the biggest piece of advice from one of our previous panelists was to ask questions and ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness. That anyone's ever been to college before struggles at some point in time, whether it's the math class or the English class or the things outside of class. It's really important that you ask for help. Kasaundra, what's happening at Southwest that can help students if they're finding themselves in a hard time?
We have those same things, the tutoring for classes. Our teachers also hold their own tutoring sessions as well. I'm not one who has an office because I'm still an adjunct instructor. And so I just set up different times around the campus or campuses, because we have multiple campuses, where I'll meet with my students for that. Also, in our student services, we have where they're able to grab bus passes, free bus passes, get social help for home, getting a home, as well as food. We have so many things that are happening due to our student population that is being offered within the city as well as outside the city. We also have different organizations that work with just males or just females, moms or our men of Southwest, where we have speakers that come in and talk to them, not just on academic basis, but on things that have happened socially. They have businesses that come in. I know every semester, at least once, where we're having a job fair or a 4-year college fair where they're getting ready to transfer to a university, a 4-year university. So there are different things that are in place that bring our students together to try to rectify some of the things that they don't understand, or they're looking for something besides what we can offer them in the classroom. So far as businesses, we have businesses that come out and hold seminars as well. So there are a lot of things that are going on, as well as what's happening at Belmont. We're kind of doing the same thing. But due to our population, we have to do a little bit extra so far as keeping our students involved.
Yeah, I really like those organizations that are very specific to specific sets of students and trying to provide wraparound services no matter where students are. Carolyn, they may have talked about a lot of things Pellissippi already offers. Feel free to add anything that Pellissippi offers, maybe that hasn't been mentioned, but maybe we can elaborate a little bit on this one. How do students find out about these different opportunities and these different resources that are available to them?
That's a great question. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, I think. There's so much out there. Everything that Doug mentioned and Kasaundra mentioned, we have all those things too. The only other thing that they didn't mention that I think we have is a garden, and a Pellissippi garden and a Pellissippi pantry where students can get food and sign up for that to happen on a regular basis. But the main thing is just don't be afraid to reach out to somebody. And it may even be that the professor, their professor for that class may not exactly know, where to go, but they know who to ask. So there are a lot of resources for students, so many, and I don't want students to ever get overwhelmed. So just don't be afraid just to ask anybody, ask your professor. We have several links to counseling services online and career services and tutoring, but there is so much that it can be overwhelming. So sometimes it's best to go to somebody you feel comfortable with and say, hey, this is my issue. Where can I go?
I know that career office specifically was very important for me, especially those last semester too, is starting to line up.
Yeah, we at Belmont, we're a 4-year university, and so we offer a lot of career fairs, job fairs, internship fairs, as well as like resume services. They do mock interviews with students to kind of prepare them for leaving the 4-year institution to go into the workplace. So there are those kinds of services. And again, it's just knowing when and how to ask the question can be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And navigating all those things can be really challenging, especially those first few semesters. We've talked a little bit about what it's like once students land on campus, but Kasaundra, we'll start with you. Let's maybe back it up a step and talk about our audience today will be both Tennessee Promise students that are in college, as well as the Tennessee Promise students that are still in high school. What can our high school students that are listening in today be doing now to prepare for college here in just a few short months?
So one of the things that I would tell them to do is to join one of the summer programs that Tennessee Promise is offering. It is such a blessing because I've worked the summer programs when you're able to go ahead and start on your education before you get there, because we lose so much information in between all the off time, and they will be starting school later than they normally would. So if they're not doing anything in between, they should get into one of the summer programs with tnAchieves. If not that, they should be working on creating opportunities for different programs that they might be interested in joining once they get to school. You have a hobby that you like, and more than likely that hobby is going to be represented in your college. And so a lot of students get there and say, oh, I'm just tired of looking at books and this, that, and the other. There are opportunities on campus, wherever school you go to, that will give you that opportunity to work on things that you like as well as what you need to learn. So those are some of the things that I would look at, as well as working a job, making sure you have enough money once you get there. So those are some of the things I would do.
And Carolyn, what can students be doing to prepare for college now?
Well, one thing I thought of was if they can just kind of reach out early to maybe a friend that's going to the same school that they're going to, or if they know somebody that's already there, maybe at Pellissippi or wherever they might be going, just to kind of talk to them and see what maybe that school has to offer that they're interested in, and kind of have a game plan ahead of time of some things that they might want to be involved in, or people that they can reach out to when they do need help. And I think it's really important, particularly at a community college where students, they commute in, they drive in and leave, that they do have something that they can be a part of other than just, coming in and sitting down in class and leaving. So if they can do that before, they can, find a buddy or two ahead of time, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And Doug, let's talk a little bit about Belmont, or a 4-year university in general. Oftentimes there may be slightly more rigorous standards, higher ACT scores, GPAs, things like that. But what can students be doing in high school to prepare for their college careers just in general.
I think one of the things that is important, I mean, Carolyn and Kasaundra kind of mentioned things that are kind of universal to starting college. Be prepared in your brain, connect to people who are there. I think one of the things that is important sometimes in a four-year university is understanding maybe the possibility of what's it like, asking questions like, what's it like to live on campus? Go to the like preview days or the orientation days to see kind of what might it be like to live on campus. Knowing kind of what it's going to be like to live away is a good question, like to be able to ask someone and things like that, I think. But I think that communicating with maybe a professor of interest, like here's a major I'm considering, send an email to us. I know I am, and I know that probably most of us are very happy to email back and say, here's what we offer. Here's how you get to be a social worker. Here's how you get to be a mathematician. Here are some careers that are possible. Here are some information. So I think just doing the homework of asking questions before you get there so that you're less surprised. Though I think anytime you go off to college, whether it be community college or four-year college, anything, it is a life-changing event that it's hard to know all the things to know ahead of time.
Yeah, it certainly is a transition. I think the more information you get on the front end, the better off you're going to be. Carolyn and Kasaundra, I'm going to send this question to you guys. We have some data on Tennessee Promise students that about 85% or so tell us that their ultimate plan is to transfer to a four-year university after earning a degree at the community college. But it looks like only somewhere in the neighborhood of around 15% or so of them actually do. So students that are already in community college working towards their associate degree, what advice do you have for them if their ultimate goal is to transfer to a four-year university?
A lot of our students like to transfer before they complete that two-year degree. And what they don't realize is that they miss out on extra money that they will receive with transfer scholarships. That's one of the things that I tell my students all the time. Go ahead and finish your two-year degree at Southwest or whatever community college that you're attending, because you get extra money for completing that. And while you're there, join an organization, because those organizations also give you transfer money as well. So I stress that not only that they have those opportunities for transfer scholarships, they have all their basic courses out the way. And so with them taking it at a community college, it's a less amount of money that they end up paying, if they're paying for anything. Because once you get to the four-year college, more than likely you are paying something for it if you don't have enough financial aid. So that's one of the things that I would always tell them is finish your two-year degree. It gets you more money once you want to walk into your four-year university.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for sure. The other thing I was thinking of too is that we're always told that the four-year institution is the boss as far as what classes they have to take and which math counts for what and how much they need in, say, a foreign language. So just to always be, every semester, make sure you're in contact with your two-year school and the four-year school, just to make sure that what you are doing is going to count and that you're not wasting any time taking a class maybe that's not exactly the right math class or exactly the right foreign language requirement. So just be in contact with the four-year school all along the way.
Yeah, kind of starting with the end in mind, I think is really important. If you know where you want to go, that you're working towards your goal to get there, and being in touch with that place is probably the most important. Doug, I'll kind of ask you a similar question. What would you recommend to students that are thinking about transferring, and what kind of resources are available for transfer students at Belmont, or maybe just at four-year universities kind of in general, where you've worked previously?
I think one of the main things, Carolyn, you kind of started talking about that, is one of the things, like for a social work degree, that's something I know a lot about. We have specific prerequisites that are required. Like they have to take biology, they have to take psychology, they need statistics, like things like this. And knowing that ahead of time, like if you start at a community college and want to work towards getting to a 4-year, having an idea of what major you want is really important so that you can do the prerequisites and take the appropriate classes so that you don't have to make those up later. Because in a lot of different programs, whether it be education, nursing, social work, business, there are prereqs that you have to have. And the more you can do that ahead of time, the easier it will be in your transition into the 4-year university to complete that bachelor's degree. And also, I think, again, I'm a big proponent of come visit, see where it is you're going, see where it is that you're going to be and what that looks like and how that may feel for you, and make sure that it's a good fit. Because like Kasaundra said, it costs money to finish all of this. And you want to make sure that you're in a space that is best suited for you, that's going to give you the best education or bang for your buck or whatever that may be to finish out the bachelor's degree.
Yeah, I, again, think that is really, really strong advice. And I really like what you guys are all saying about visiting and getting to know where it is that you're going to go. So we've talked a little bit about transferring and continuing your education. Let's talk now for the students that are listening in today that are about to graduate and thinking about going into the workforce. We have really strong relationships with a lot of large employers across Tennessee. We've recorded another webinar in this series. Dan Caldwell from Nissan, one of our largest employers in Tennessee, talked about kind of the soft skills that students need in addition to what they're learning in your classroom, in addition to learning statistics and algebra and the practice of social work, that they still struggle to find people that show up on time, that can work on a team, that know how to collaborate. Dan said that the number one thing you're going to do in any job is solve problems. These aren't things you're going to find in a textbook in any of your classrooms, I wouldn't imagine. So what can students do? Carolyn, we'll start with you. What can students be doing to get those skills while they're in college so that when they start their first job, maybe the learning curve is not quite so steep?
Right. Yeah, I think that's very important. One thing I would suggest to them is to get as involved as you can on campus, maybe with a student work program, or get on, join a club that's putting together some sort of program where they would be required to plan things and, work on those kind of things together with a group. Maybe as soon as possible, look into an internship or doing something with a company outside of the school, those kind of things. But just mainly, I would just say get involved in something on campus with a group where you are producing things or planning activities or putting information out to the campus, those kind of things, just to help develop things other than classroom skills.
Yeah, I know. I was the president of an organization in college, about 150 people, and I learned more learning how to work with my peers and their parents and the administration. In that 1 year that I probably learned in any one classroom at the time in terms of just how to be prepared for life. I think getting involved is really important. Doug, what about you? What advice do you have for students about to enter the workforce?
Well, Carolyn, I want to echo with you when you said get involved on campus and campus activities. There's just valuable life skills that come when you have to work with your peers and motivate people to do a thing. So that is a skill that is powerful, and I think thank you for bringing that up. I also echo your words on internships and any kind of way that they can work in a business or in an agency that mirrors what they hope to do. It gives them not only just the skills of that business, but also it allows them to understand, like, is this what I want to do? It's kind of a checklist of yes, this is good, and no, this isn't. And often I tell my students, sometimes knowing what you don't want is as valuable as knowing what you do want. So internships, I think, are a great way to put that into practice. And finally, I think, and the onus of this is more on professors, I think, but also on students. It's learning how to think critically, how to hear something and read something and know how to digest that and and use that in your life. Often students will read something that I've assigned and they'll say, well, this person is right and I have to learn how to believe this. And so me challenging that and saying, no, you don't. You can form your own opinion. You have a way of thinking. You have the experiences of your life. How does this resonate? Does it not? Do you agree or disagree? Learning to have that kind of freedom and ability of that critical engagement and critically thinking about material is important, I think, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Those critical thinking skills and that problem solving piece that we mentioned earlier really are so important as you're entering the workforce and you're starting your first job. Kasaundra, what about you? What advice for students on gaining those skills that are so necessary as they're beginning their careers?
I'm really echoing on the same thing that they've said. The internships, the working collaboratively with your classmates, forming study groups inside of your classes helps my students a lot. It's teaching them that teamwork that they need to have when they go on to a job. So those are the same things that I would harp on, as well as making sure you come to class on time, because if you come to class on time, more than likely you're going to go to work on time as well. So I would just agree with the same things that Doug and Carolyn have mentioned, as well as just being true to what you're going to school for. Because if this is what you say you want to do in life, go ahead and show up and do your very best at it.
I want to echo something with that. I think what you said is super important to kind of highlight is showing up on time and prepared is a skill, and that professionalism shines in the classroom. And we're going to be people who write references and recommendations. So if we see you as someone who shows up, and with that, for me, I like to say show up and turn things in on time. Oftentimes we talk a lot in social work about writing grants and things like that. And I'm like, grants don't let you turn it in late. You will lose funding if you don't turn it in on time. Like, what we do in the classroom is actually professional skill building, and helping them understand that is important. So thank you for saying that too.
Showing up with a good attitude every day. Those are showing up and having a good attitude. Those are two things that are totally in your control, right? And things that you make a decision. If you're going to show up, if you're going to have a good attitude, if you're going to work hard. And I think those three things will carry you a really long way. It's really good advice. We have, when we survey Tennessee Promise students and we ask them what they want to do, there are two fields that are overwhelmingly popular. Those are healthcare, which none of you three are in specifically, and education, which all three of you are in. So if you have a student that is interested in education and wants to work as a professor or work at a college, work at that post-secondary level, what would you encourage them to do? And then if any of you want to tackle this piece of it, feel free, but kind of what's the difference in working at a community college versus a university and the options that are available to you there? So Kasaundra, I'll start with you this time.
Okay, so working at a community college, my key thing is if you're going to work in education, make sure you like to talk to people. If you don't like to talk to people or be around a lot of people, you're going to have a problem. And that's one of the things that you start to learn about yourself, whether you're an introvert or extrovert. I'm an introvert, but I like talking to people. And I guess I'm a caretaker. I'm a server. So I like being able to serve people in those things that I know that I can help with. That's one of the things that I would say. Working at a four-year college, of course, I'm not familiar with that, but make sure that your door is open. You're willing to talk to people, willing to empathize with what they're going through. So those would be some of the things that I would make sure that if you want to be an educator, those are the things that you need to be concerned with yourself about.
Doug, you seem to like that. You enjoy talking with people answer that she had there. You want to elaborate as well?
I did enjoy that. I'm an introvert as well, but I do enjoy talking to people. Though at the end of the day, I do like my quiet commute home, which is very nice. And also in that, I want to say that if someone wants to be a teacher, teaching is more than teaching material. Like, it's not just, here's the subject, I'm going to lecture, you're going to talk about it, you're going to read, you're going to write, here's the information. Teaching is something that is a holistic activity. I'm teaching you and giving you information, but I'm also helping you become a learner. I'm helping you become a teacher of this information. I'm helping you integrate it into your life. I'm helping you wrestle with this material so that it becomes real for you and not just information in your head. So that's what I would share with somebody. If they're willing to take that extra step, I think that is where a university teacher kind of shines, is if they had to hold all that together. I really believe that. And then I've never taught at a community college, so I don't know. I've only taught at 4 universities, but one of the things that I have to do, and I don't know if community college professors do this or not, is I have a research agenda. So I teach and I provide service to the community. There's kind of 3 pillars: teaching, service, and then research. I have to do formal research, write papers, get them published. So that's another thing I would share with somebody. Like, is that something that you want to do? Is that something that you feel like is a part of your kind of life trajectory, and understanding those things?
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And probably a side of the college professorship that people don't see is that research side. Carolyn, what about you? What advice for students that may be interested in getting into this profession?
Yes, I kind of want to agree with what they said about, you really do have to like working with students. I'll never forget one of my very first job interviews I went on for a teaching position. This was at a high school level. And the interviewer asked me, why did I want to teach? And the first thing I said was, well, I just love math. And I talked about that a little while. And then after that, I did also talk about how much I like working with students. And so the guy that was interviewing me said, well, I'm very glad that you brought in the piece that you do like working with students, because you have to enjoy that. You can't just like the subject of math. You have to also want to work with students. And also at the community college level, we do have other things we do other than just teach. We don't have the research, but we do have community service. You know, how are we serving the community, and also how are we serving the college, and how are we interacting with students? So all of those things are a part of what you do, other than just presenting, you know, the materials. So you have to think about all of those things. Is what you would be doing as a teacher. And then I would also say, you know, it may be something that you start out doing part-time when you first get out of school. And if you are doing that part-time, find ways to get involved in the college. Even though you may not be full-time, try to find ways that you can get yourself involved in some of those things, the college service and community service, and kind of get a feel for those things. I think that would be a good way to see, you know, how you would like that and get more involved in that college. That could also help, you know, find a job there later, a full-time job.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Obviously, you would want to be passionate about the subject that you're teaching. And I think all 3 of you are, and that shows through. But you know, working with students would be very, very important in this career. And I always had a professor in college always said his job was to help us in our journey in the search of the big K, and K being knowledge. And that was how he kind of viewed his role, as leading us to gain more information so that we were better prepared. So we always wrap these with 3 questions. So we do the field expertise piece, and now 3 questions. And some of this that you guys may have already said, because yours is so specific to college students. But Carolyn, let's start with you. We'll go east to west, mix it up here for these last 3. What's one thing that you wish you knew while you were in college that you just didn't know?
Actually, it would be the thing that professors aren't that scary, and how important it is to form those relationships. What a big difference that would have made for me if I would have done that and gotten a little more involved in things on campus. I really wish that that was something that I had done way back when I was in college.
Yeah, it's perfect for the topic today, right? Doug, what about you? What's one thing you wish you knew?
I wish I knew that, one, I agree with that. Like, my professors aren't scary, and like, they're approachable. They want to, and I didn't really learn that until like my senior year, because it was my major, and there was professors that kind of saw me more often, and then I became more comfortable and they became more comfortable. And it was kind of a lovely experience once that happened. So that's something I wish I knew. And then also that as my story says, that I've changed careers, that what I majored in may not have to define me for the rest, next 60 years of my life. Like,
So true.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Kasaundra, we'll let you wrap us up on this question here. What do you wish you knew that maybe you know now you didn't know then?
The importance of internships. It gets you into the door of seeing what you think you selected as a career. And then you have that possibility of changing up before you graduate.
Yeah, that career exploration piece is so important. Doug, we'll start with you on this next one. We've talked a lot today about advice for college students, but if there was just one piece of advice you could give to students that you think is the most important, what would it be?
I think the most important thing that I share with students is take a risk and get involved. That's the number one thing.
Yeah, and I think especially at Southwest Community College, Pellissippi State Community College, each have more than 10,000 students, and a lot of these big four universities are really large places. It really helps to shrink campus if you get involved and kind of find your niche. I think that's a really good piece of advice. Kasaundra, what about you?
Always ask for help when you need it. If it is so important not to be scared to ask for the help that you need. People are willing. There are resources available. There are people who are willing to talk to you about anything. And your teachers are those people. So ask your teachers. If they don't know, they'll go search for you. So always ask for help when needed.
Really good advice. Carolyn?
Mine is along those same lines. I would just sum it up as being engaged, whether it's engaged in a lecture or a classroom discussion, asking questions, or whether it's being engaged with the material. If you are confused or need help, engage into that, ask questions, get tutoring, engaged in what's going on in the university or the college, get involved that way. And just not being afraid if a door shuts or someone says no, don't just take that as the final answer. I almost quit my master's degree at the very start just because I don't even remember now exactly what it was, but something with my application or something with something that I needed to fill out or do I hadn't done correctly. I can't remember the details now, but someone said, well, no, you can't be a part of this program because of whatever it was. But I didn't, I almost gave up, but I thought, maybe I need to ask about that or call again or ask somebody else or push that a little bit further. And I did. And it turned out it was something that could easily be worked out. So just be engaged in that process. If you do get a no or a closed door, don't give up right there. Just keep pushing.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. And I think really practical for our college students that, you're going to be told no, it's going to get hard sometimes. Keep pushing through because in the end, having that degree is going to be totally worth it. All right. So last question. It's one of my favorite questions. Kasaundra, we'll start with you this time. If you could do anything outside of being a college professor for your career, what would you do?
I find that real hard because I've tried a lot of things already, and teaching is the thing that I love doing the most. But I'm guessing if I could do something different, it would be something working within the community, cooking, talking. I don't know. I like working with people who I think want some help. So I've learned that my gift is to serve. So it would be anything along the way of helping people to understand something that they're confused about, that they need help on.
I like that answer a lot. Carolyn, what about you?
Well, I absolutely love the outdoors. So if I wasn't teaching, which I love teaching every day, I'm just so thankful for what I do. But if that wasn't an option for me, I would like to help people get connected with just doing things outside. I think some people just aren't aware of just locally what hikes there are, or what's out there. I would just want to help other people discover the great outdoors. That's what I would do.
I like that answer. Doug, what about you?
I like both of those answers. Those sound great. And I mean, I too love what I do. I love being a professor. It's great. But if I were not doing this, I would actually, and my friends will say this, well, I love to plan a trip. I like in my past, just Googling about as I'm doing nothing, I'm planning trips, I'm thinking of that. And I think I would like to be a professional trip planner and take people on travel all over the world. That is what I would love to do, just to travel with people.
Doug, can you plan one for us?
Yeah, I can plan it. It's going to be so fun. Yeah.
I've been on a trip that Doug has planned before. It was a pretty good time. So he's good at that. Well, I want to thank all of you for being here today. Carolyn, Doug, Kasaundra, thank you all for taking time. And I know that you are all engaged with Tennessee Achieves in other ways. I know that Carolyn and Kasaundra, you've each taught our summer bridge program, and Doug and Carolyn, you both have served as Tennessee Achieves mentors. And so we appreciate what you do to support our program and taking the time to be with us here today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're
Well,
welcome.
for our audience that is tuned in, thank you so much for listening to this in our series of Tennessee Achieves virtual community service webinars. Hope that you have found this information to be insightful and informative. I know that I have. It's been a long time since I've been in a college classroom, and so hearing some of these tips from people that are in college classrooms every day, I hope you have found to be extremely helpful. So hang on for just one sec, students, to learn how to get credit for this. And thanks so much for being here and listening today. Thank you for watching this installment of the Tennessee Achieves virtual community service webinar. Your attendance will be automatically recorded and your 1 hour of community service is being credited to you. Please click Submit on this screen to ensure that your attendance is recorded for you. For this community service opportunity, you will not need to complete the community service form. We hope you found this opportunity to be engaging and informative. Please watch more of this series by visiting www.tnAchieves.org. We hope you have a great day. Thank you.